Shall we go on to the next one, please? So the next free paper 560, anti-dysphotopsia lens, a novel intraocular lens designed to prevent dysphotopsia post-cataract surgery. Dr. Venkata Prabhakar, Guduru. G18472.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to present ADL lens, which is anti-dysphotopsia intraocular lens, a novel design to prevent negative dysphotopsia. It has been 2000 years since the first ever cataract surgery was performed, and since then there has been a lot of evolution, but there are few factors which prevents the cataract surgery to reach its zenith, that is the negative dysphotopsia. It is perceived as a temporal crescentric shadow in 15.5% of the patients post-cataract surgery, where we see this commonly encountered problem in OPD, even after giving the best possible surgical outcomes as a surgeon, where the patient says, I can see everything clearly, I don't have pain, but I see this crescentric shadow on the temporal side, and this is bothering me. And as a surgeon, we don't have a perfect solution for this, and we wanted to find one. Why does it happen? Coming to the basic optics of the negative dysphotopsia, it is the gray shaded area formed by the line that is passing in between the iris and the intraocular lens, and the ray that is refracted by the optic edge. So the main culprit here is the gap between the iris and the optic. So if you want to deal with negative dysphotopsia, you have to eliminate this lens, which is eliminate this gap between iris and the intraocular lens as seen in the OCT. Here is a crystalline lens, but we don't see any gap here, so we don't have any dysphotopsias. Based on this same concept, these are the other lenses available in the market, but they are very complicated to implant as they need posterior capsular rhexis and all. And our idea was to develop a new IOL design with an aim of developing a new IOL design, simple in its concept and easy to implant. And as the lens is implanted, the optic by default should be at the capsular rhexis margin, thus eliminating the gap between iris and the optic. And this is our lens design. And this is our ADL lens, where we can see a central 6 mm optic and a 360 degrees haptic with an angulation here, as we can see here, and it comes with 2 dialing holes. This is a video of implantation of the lens. Here we can see it is loaded into the cartridge, just like any other intraocular lenses. And in a post-phacoemulsification eye, you can see the lens is being injected into the capsular bag. Being made up of 20% hydrophilic material, it is very capsule friendly and easily manipulatable. And here we can see 2 dialing holes, with the help of which we can push the lens inside the capsular bag, and using the same we can aspirate the visco behind the lens. As we can see here, all it takes is a simple nudge and the lens centers itself into the capsular bag. Here we can see the optic and the capsular rhexis against each other, and the visco is aspirated using the dialing hole. These are the post-op images, slit lamp images. Here we can see a tiny reflection highlighting the fact that there is no gap between the iris and the optic. And here we can see 360 degrees depression, which is nothing but the optic-haptic junction, where the optic continues as the haptic. So there is no optic edge. So both the problems causing negative dysphotopsia are dealt here. And this is another image highlighting the fact that the eye looks phakic except for the dialing hole here. And these are the OCT images where you can see the optic of the lens here. And here we have to notice that there is no gap between the iris and the optic. And this is a OCT image highlighting the fact that there is no optic edge here, where the optic continues as a haptic as it is tapered. And this is another OCT image highlighting the dilated eye, where the angles are quite open and it doesn't cause any angle closure. And the reflected, hyper-reflected part is a capsular rhexis. And this is a Schimflug image, which is interesting. As we can see here, this is the optic and this is the iris. There is no gap in between, and the posterior capsule is stretched out, just like a normal crystalline lens, as we can see here. So this lens gives normal crystalline lens profile to the capsular bag. Our study, we included 56 patients who already experienced negative dysphotopsia in one eye, who are willing for the other eye. And our grade was NS 2 to 3 with an average age of 53 to 71 years. And they are followed up for 2 years. And at 2 years follow-up, none of the patients has experienced negative dysphotopsia. And there were no adverse events intraoperative or post-operative. And this is our analysis where none of the patients with ADL lens experienced dysphotopsia. To conclude, the new IOL design is simple and easy to implant and effectively prevents temporal negative dysphotopsia. The present IOL we use in our day-to-day life was designed to replace aphakic glasses, so the dysphotopsias. Our ADL lens is designed to replace normal crystalline lens, giving the capsular bag normal crystalline lens profile, and so the visual experience is devoid of negative dysphotopsias. And this lens design can be the future. These are my references. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Shall we go on to the questions, please? Yes, Dr. Lay. Yes, please.
I had two questions, Dr. Gudur. A nice, innovative idea. In your series, you use these cases in the other eye of the patients who already had dyschromatopsia, right?
Yes, yes.
So my question is, have you had any cases where you've used bilaterally? And if that is one part, and secondly, how would you decide in which patients to use it as the lens of primary choice in his first surgery, either eyes?
We have implanted in both eyes, sir. We have been using it in regular patients also. The number of lenses we have is quite less. We have implanted it more than 150 patients. But to make sure whether it's not working or not, we have to implant it in the cases who already have experienced negative dysphotopsia, because the incidence of negative dysphotopsia as such is 15%.
15%. So then how will you decide where you would like to use it as a primary lens in his first surgery?
We can, once it is available, we can put it for every patient, sir. Whoever walks in, we can just start putting it.
And the cost?
Not much. It's basic hydrophilic material, and we have a patent pending, but as such, we don't have any commercial interest. My organization, it's more of community based. So once it available, it will be for very minimal cost only. Nothing big.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Venkat, nice presentation.
Yes, sir.
An innovative idea. I have got two small questions for you. So
Yes.
first of all, did you decide on this photopic or scotopic pupil size? Point one. Point two, how do you center the rhexis? What measures you have taken to determine the rhexis size and centration? Because these are the two factors which are really responsible for the negative photopsia, apart from the lens. So how do these clinical parameters fit into your present choice?
So first question, sir, scotopic and photopic people, we really didn't take into consideration because it's 6 mm optic, just like any other intraocular lenses. And the second thing,
Rhexis size and centration.
rhexis size, it's normal 5 to 5.5 mm, sir. We didn't take any really cautious, because since the toric and multifocals have started 5.5, centered rhexis has become normalcy for us.
Okay.
It's regular 5.5, 5 to 5.5. Nothing particular.
Venkata Prabhakar, that's a good presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Once you said that it's close to the iris, no? So there's possibility of iris repeatedly rubbing the lens and causing repeated iritis. That is one.
Yes,
And the second thing is your lens is little tilted, you said, no? How much degree of tilt was used?
The angulation, sir, haptics.
Yeah, angulation, yeah.
It was 120 degrees, sir.
Okay, so this lens is literally pushed forward. So
Yes, sir.
what happened during accommodation? No, this lens will move still more forward. When there is accommodation, the ciliary muscles will contract and the bag will move forward. No, so what happens during that time?
Sir, once the capsular X is done, the chances of accommodation acting, pushing the lens. No, sir. Not much, sir. As such, the material is hydrophilic, so it doesn't cause any rubbing against the iris. And on the OCTs, we have seen the iris is touching the capsular axis margin only. So it's not actually rubbing onto the optic. And there were no incidences of raised IOPs or pigment dispersion.
And there was a large gap between the lens and the posterior capsular bag. No?
Yes, sir.
That will change any refractive status of the eye.
No, sir. Basically, because it's closer to iris, the A constant changes. It was around 117.6. Other than that, not much.
Because if the lens is moving, if it is forward, no, I think there should be like they should have good near vision also. Because when there is accommodation occurring,
Yeah, sir.
so near vision also should be better in this patient.
Yeah, initially we thought same, sir, but not much of use. We checked for unaided near visual acuity, just like any other pseudophakic lens only, sir.
Why you kept that dialing hole this thing? Because you can just push the hydrophilic material. You can just push the lens inside. There's no need for those dialing holes. Because
So
again,
that is to mainly to aspirate the visco behind the lens, sir, because it's a concave lens, and the visco will get trapped behind the lens. So we need a hole to aspirate it.
okay. Because whether that hole itself may cause some sort of dyschromatopsia, because those holes look little bigger.
Yes, sir. Main aim was to prevent this capsule entrapment, aqueous entrapment.
Was there any mismatch between the lens capsule and the lens? Because in this shape lenses, the centration might be a problem.
Yes, sir. We did had some oval or irregular axis also, but it was doing fine, no issues. There were no chances of cases of decentration or anything, because it's a very snug fit lens. Once it opens into the capsule, it opens up like a flower, so it centers onto itself.
Yeah, but what happens is sometimes the lens capsules are quite large and they can move around. You can't match them perfectly.
Yes, sir. The maximum lens thickness we used was 4.5, which was intumescent cataract. It was doing fine. And maximum white to white we have done was 12.6. So beyond that, I cannot actually comment whether it will stay or not. And even we didn't put beyond 25 mm axial length. So maybe they need bigger lenses or more walled size.
So this, do you had any capsular distension syndrome?
No,
Because
sir.
of the accumulation of fluid, no? Then because the lens is moved forward. So anyone had this capsular distension syndrome?
No, sir. That's why I put a bigger dialing oval dialing holes, and we never had any of those problems. Initially, we had that thought, but it never happened.
Dr. Susan, you have a question, please.
Dr. Susan. Dr. Susan.
Sorry.
Yes.
I had a question. Have you done an anti-segment OCT, with the dilated pupil to see how the anterior capsule opposes itself against that posterior angulated haptic, that would kind of also tell you, or rather the part of the question is, what is your incidence of PCO with this lens?
We did see, ma'am, in OCT you cannot capture because maximum it gives 2.5 mm depth. The haptics against capsule we couldn't capture, but we have done shim plug images from Pentacam. In all the cases, it was quite opposing. And coming to the incidence of PCO, we had 5 cases of PCO incidence, which is a normal incidence only. And
Any difference when you do a YAG?
yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We have done one YAG cap. Since it's almost after 2 to 3 months, the capsule is already fibrous, so there was no change in the position of the lens or anything.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.